Okay, get the mic going on this one. See how it sounds. Um, so this is the Sescom um, AB switch. I guess on the actual thing itself, it's an iPod AB switch. Because if it didn't say iPod or some sort of Apple related thing on it, people wouldn't know that they could use it for that application. I I honestly don't know why that's there. So Sescom. Um, I had never really heard of Sescom before until I started searching for AB switches. So I decided to check them out. And they are a company out of New York, and they make audio stuff. And it looks like they do pretty good quality. If you look at their products, they have, it's going to load a little slow. They have lots of cables and stuff, and they're made with good wired Yamaha. So I mean, I forget. I looked at one connector and it had that like Mogami cable with Nutric connectors. So they make quality stuff. So I got this. It comes with this bubble pack, which is nice. I was just kind of expecting a, I don't know, the Switch route. Like I thought when I initially looked at this, I thought this was just some guy who started his own company. Because if you look on the Amazon reviews, and I'll show you in a second the inside, it's obviously hand wired. So I thought it was just some guy that was making these and selling them, and it was just going to come wrapped in some bubble wrap or something, and that would be it. But no, they're an actual legitimate company, so they sell things in legitimate packages. So you've got your back plate there. It even comes with a Sescom sticker, which is cool. And this little card that says that you can find the documentation online, because they're trying to save trees and stuff. So that's nice. That's nice that they care about the environment like that. Because it has nothing to do with saving costs, I'm sure. Put that over there. So I've actually already opened this. It has some 3M dual lock on the back. So I just kind of stick it up here, leave it out of the way. It also came with a strip of the deeper 3M dual lock, which I used for something else because I didn't think I was going to use it for this. And after using that, I was like, man, this stuff is awesome. So I bought a couple rolls for myself, and I've used it on here. So I guess first thing we'll look at is the overall build. It's a good piece of plastic housing. It has the switch on the front, the A and B inputs or outputs, and then the singular input-output. It's also this kind of sticker, Sescom sticker. You could easily peel that off, and it seems like, I mean, it's like a fairly heavy, fairly thick sticker, so it probably won't leave too much residue or anything. Just peel it off, maybe rub that off with some alcohol if you don't like it. I think it looks fine, so I'm going to leave it. I need to know which is A and which is B. But the other nice thing, which I do like, because I could see this, like if this was just some janky piece of equipment, like one of these cables that I got somewhere around here that have the colors reversed on the channels the colors reversed on the channels, so red isn't right, red is left, and white is right, and it's just a pain in the ass. Don't buy cheap cables. Spend a couple extra dollars, buy something that will be made correctly. But so this side's actually A, it's pointing towards A, that's A. It's pointing towards B, it's actually B. Well done. So now I'm going to crack it open real quick. It just has these 2 screws on the back, so it's very easy to get open. Just Just a second. And it's just a thin plate. The back lifts off. And when we look on the inside, as you can see, it's hand wired. It's definitely hand soldered. And I wanted to address something because there have been, and lots of people do say it's overpriced because this little box is probably very inexpensive to buy, and they probably just buy it and drill holes in it because they have another version that's RCA adapters instead of the 3.5 millimeter, and I imagine they just use the same box. They buy a bunch of them, just drill the holes, put the connectors in. And then these are fairly simplistic, fairly cheap connectors. So altogether, I mean, how much could this, in parts, how much would this cost? A few bucks, maybe. It's definitely not much. And how much does it sell for? $30. Now the biggest reason is because of this. It's made in the USA. I'm sure all these parts are purchased from China. They're definitely not all sourced from US companies. And it's just assembled in the US. You can actually see, if you go to their About Us, down here they've got their little workshop, and it looks like there's a dude sitting there making something, and so there's definitely it's big enough to where they have employees that they hire to assemble these things. So if you think about it, somebody had to take this, they had to drill the holes in this, they had to fit all these pieces, they had to get these wires, cut them to length, strip them, maybe tin them. They are pretty stiff wires, so it's a good chance, and I just got an email, there's a good chance that these are solid core instead of stranded. So they had to do that. They had to fit all these in and then solder them all, and that's quite a bit of solder points. It probably, I don't know, I bet if somebody really got going with these things, because I'm sure they just drill the holes in a bunch of them all at once. So it probably takes somebody 15-20 minutes to make one of these. Somebody that's skilled, that just kind of does this all day. You just need to make a bunch. Make them all at once. Spend a day, make a ton of them. And if you think about that, you have the company that needs to make money off of it. You've got, and this is a big enough company to where they have to source the parts, so they have to pay somebody that does that. They probably drill a bunch of these, so there's probably another employee that does that. And then there's somebody who assembles everything, puts it together, and maybe they test them. They have to, plug stuff in here and sit here and test it, make sure it all works. Sure, there's some sort of quality control. And that might be another person, but that would also add time. So when you think about it, and these are all people here in the US, and they're all making wages here in the US, and I would like to think that this company, especially they're located in New York. I don't know what the minimum wages are in New York, but I'm sure they're decent, and I'd like to think that they probably pay them more than minimum wage anyway. So once you add up all of the costs of actually putting one of these little things together, and then the profit that the company needs to make it worthwhile, $30 is probably on the high side, but I think it's fine. Like I'm happy paying that for this. I mean, it's a solid little piece of equipment, and it does its job. And I need it. It does what it does what I need it to do. So that's fine. As far as the functionality goes, there are some people who have complained about like a buzz or a hiss from the unit. I personally have not noticed that. It's very clean. I mean, they're all just wires, connections. Unless one of them's loose or unless one of them's grounding out somewhere, there shouldn't be an issue. So it works. The only thing that I could think of is if you have a source with a ground coming in here and a separate source with another ground coming in here, you could be getting a ground loop, and that would cause a buzz in the line. So that's something to consider when you're doing this. But if you're testing something like two headphone amplifiers, which are just a two-prong, neither of them have a ground, so there's no chance for ground loop because the ground's fed through the DAC. Okay, so now I'm actually going to demonstrate a couple of uses for this switch. So the first thing that we can do is if you have two sources that you want to compare. So I'll actually do, rather than comparing 2 amps, well, yeah, just for simplicity's sake, I could take this and plug this into my phone. Especially with Spotify, you can switch back and forth on which source is playing. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to do this. So I have these two just 3.5 millimeter short auxiliary cables, and I have them bundled together like this so that I can't tell which side is which. I mean, so that eventually I'll have to figure it out. But I do that so when I plug these in, I can level. The first thing we want to do is level the volumes, and then I can just mix them all around, and I can't tell, I don't know which is which, so I can do kind of a blind test. So what we want to do, and the way this works, is we have source going into A, source going into B, and then there's always one of the sources going out to the I/O port here. So right now this is the way that's hooked up. But if we wanted to have just say 1 amp going in to the I/O, so then we have in, and then source will either be going out A or out B. So you can swap them around. So first we have 2 amps, we have the volley and the O2, both hooked in to A and B and going out to my K7XXs. So I'll put those on, make sure that the volumes are all the way down, and now we will play some music. And right now I have my speakers playing, so I'm going to not play those. Okay. So now we're on. So it just so happens that I hooked up the O2 on this side, so that works out. So I'll turn that volume up, switch over to here, turn this volume up. I can actually put this up a little bit more. So now I have the volumes leveled. So now I can sit here, they're both playing. So I switch here, I'm listening to the volley, switch to A, I'm listening to the O2. And I can just go back and forth and see what differences there are, if any. So that's application 1. Application 2, we're going to go ahead and turn the volley off. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for now. Application 2 would be, well, actually, since we know which side is which right now, leave that there. We will plug the output of the O2 into the input of the switch. So now we'll have output going out either side here. Plug the K7XXs into one side, and this cable, which I just put a knot in, whatever, plug into the other side, and that's going to drive me crazy, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Plug the other end into my ATHM 30s. These are my original headphones. And now I can turn my music back on, play it out of here, turn the volume up. So now I can play out of my K7XXs, listen to these, and put those down, take these, switch it over, and here. Now these are playing. Maybe you can't hear. Let me put on something a little louder. What's a good song? I like this song. That's not that loud. This is a good song. Yeah. So now you can hear, I don't know if you can hear, it's playing out of there. And if you can still hear it, we'll do that. You can hear that, switch it over. Now it's playing out of these. So I can just go back and forth, compare the two. So that's the second option. Now the third, and I actually wouldn't do this if I were using, so actually what I would do for this one, this will work. So I actually took out my old speakers, because now I have those, which are just amazing. Absolutely amazing. They sound so incredible. And I'll actually probably do a review on them. So a little bit of a spoiler. These are my old desktop speakers that I used for many years. And I'll show you how those will work. So what we're gonna do is this is my source from my Modi DAC. So I'm going to use that as my input and move this up here. So let's say this attached, we'll do this first. So the next, we'll take the speakers, we'll plug those in on this side. So it'll pop, so speakers are on that side. And we'll take these headphones, since they're over here, if I can grab that, plug them in here. And let me get that wire up here. I'll snap this up here. So now, and I'd also, normally have that fed back through there. So now I have a little bit of a little switch. So actually no, that's not what I wanted to do. My bad. This is what I wanted to do. I don't know if this is going to be right. Take that there, and I don't know, I'll guess this will be my input into my amp. This will be my out. Let's see if that plays. No, so that's the wrong one. So we'll use this one. There, that works. Okay. So now I have line level from the DAC going into the switch, then I have that going into my amp from one side, and the other side going into my powered speakers. So if I want to listen to my headphones, switch here, play, done with that. I don't know how loud this is going to be. If I want to listen to my speakers, flip it over, and it plays there. I probably don't want to leave that on too long, otherwise this video will get pulled from YouTube. So yeah, so headphones, speakers, headphones, really simple. It's good stuff. So I think those are all the uses that I could, those aren't, I'm sure there are more uses that you can use this for, but those are, I don't want to do that, that was bad. Those are three very good uses. Main ways that I would use them. I don't use them for the speakers because I have my JBLs and I have those hooked up through the sys, so I can use it as a preamp volume control. Yeah, Sescom iPod AB switch. This thing's good. It's worth the money. If you need an AB switch, it's built very well. The soldering joints on the inside were good. The wires were very sturdy. I'd buy another one if I needed it. So, good deal.